This is CBC Here and Now.
Be the wild one. It's going to be the one not to miss. It's going to be 225 laps of the most incredible racing experience for Newfoundland and Labradors.
NASCAR races are coming to the province.
And it starts this summer during Come Home Year.
Well, we've got another area of low pressure offshore. I'll tell you how long this one's going to stick around.
Wabush has seen its ups and downs many times in that over 50 years, and we've never closed the mark.
A rally in Wabush to pressure the town to reopen the rec centre.
Residents say the town should operate without help from Labrador City.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. A new independent assessment of the Holyrood generating station has found the aging and polluting power plant might be around for much longer than expected.
And it won't be cheap, and it could further affect power rates here. Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports.
One of the justifications for proceeding with Muskrat Falls a decade ago is that it would allow for the decommissioning of the Holyrood oil-fired generating station. It was said the station was nearing the end of its useful life, and its closure would result in big savings on fuel and greenhouse gas emissions. But there are growing concerns about the reliability of the province's power grid in the Muskrat era, caused mainly by the long delays in perfecting the software needed to operate the Labrador Island Link, and worries about a prolonged outage on the 1,100-kilometre line. A review is underway to determine what type of backup, if any, will be required when Muskrat is fully commissioned. And a new independent report reveals that the half-century-old Holyrood generating station can operate until the end of this decade in standby mode, ready to provide up to 500 megawatts of recall power within 4 hours of a major outage. But such a backup won't come cheap. The report says it will cost about $600 million over the next 8 years. About $65 million annually, or roughly the equivalent to adding 1 cent per kilowatt hour to power rates. Fuel and capital upgrades account for most of that cost. It's another troubling chapter for Muskrat Falls. Holyrood is one of the province's biggest polluters. It was supposed to be decommissioned by now, but years of Muskrat delays and questions about whether it's up to the task means emissions like these and millions in operating costs could be going up in smoke for years to come. NL Hydro is scheduled to deliver its recommendation this summer on whether to maintain Holyrood or invest in other forms of backup power. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Turning to COVID news, since Friday's update, 6 more people in the province have died because of the virus. 2 of those deaths were people in their 70s. The other 4 were 80 and older. According to Public Health, 37 people are now in hospital due to COVID-19. 7 of those patients are in critical care. 130 people in the province have died from COVID since the pandemic started. 20 of those deaths have been this month alone.
Well, now to the Northern Peninsula, where there have been numerous sightings of polar bears in recent weeks. Conservation officers are focusing on Goose Cove. Residents there are being told to keep away from the animals and report all sightings to police or conservation officers. And just southeast of Goose Cove in St. Anthony, there's been another close encounter, this time involving a polar bear that climbed onto a woman's roof.
Okay, I was lying down reading a book between 6 and 6:30, I suppose this was. My dog came and jumped at me and then took off running, so I thought there was somebody at the door. And I can't hear when people knock on the door, so luckily I decided to leave the dog inside the inside door. And when I opened the outside doors, there's 2, and there's a Dutch door, so I just opened the top part of the door and looked out. And when I looked up on the bank above my steps, this polar bear was looking me in the face. I looked at the polar bear, and it registered as a polar bear. So I closed the doors quickly, hoping that he wouldn't try to follow me. I didn't know he was on my roof. A polar bear is a heavy creature. Fear is your worst enemy, so I would have been afraid. And I don't think I had a chance to be afraid. I was quite excited. My heart was pounding and my legs were weak, but otherwise I was good.
That is absolutely incredible. Definitely you have a good roof since polar bears are pretty heavy. Yeah, that's a lot of ice, I guess, coming in, and that's thanks to where we're seeing all of that ice moving in with those northerly winds. And we've been seeing that a lot, actually, over the last couple of weeks. Certainly this week, the start of it anyway, no different. Lots of cloud cover in play as well, and we've got some of that colder air up across Labrador and making its way across the province as well. Now, thanks to that area of low pressure, we do have a wind warning in place for the Bay of Exploits, Bonavista North, as well as Bonavista. And we're going to see these, we're already seeing these winds, I should say, about 60 kilometers per hour sustained. It says calm in Bonavista. That's because it's broken at the moment, but you can assume that those winds are fairly strong as well, with those winds gusting upwards of about 80 kilometers per hour for a good chunk of the northeast coast. And that will continue as we head through the night tonight. We're going to see those windy conditions anywhere from 80 to 100 kilometers per hour, mainly in those exposed areas, hence those winds, wind warnings, and that will continue into tomorrow afternoon, unfortunately, in those areas along the northeast coast. Eventually, we will see those winds ease as we get into Wednesday. Unfortunately, this area of low pressure is going to stick with us, though. I'll tell you what that means when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Whitburn police arrested a 51-year-old transport truck driver over the weekend following a tip about a dangerous driver. Saturday evening, someone reported that a speeding transport truck was driving erratically along the Trans-Canada Highway. The RCMP located and stopped the vehicle and later determined the driver was 3 times the legal limit for alcohol. That man was taken into custody. His license has been suspended and his vehicle has been impounded.
An Inuk politician from Labrador says she won't accept a provincial apology for residential schools. The provincial government recently said it's getting ready to deliver an apology that it promised in 2017, 5 years ago. But the MHA for Torn Gap Mountains says an apology won't be valid until Indigenous people have the same access to services as everyone else in this province. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
It's infuriating for me.
MHA Leela Evans says the province is failing to achieve reconciliation with Indigenous people.
They'll talk about changing the name on a holiday. They'll talk about changing the name now to Colonial Building. What good is that when people still struggle to feed their children, heat their homes, to provide a house, and actually be able to look at what the rest of the province is getting? And we're being left further and further behind. There's no reconciliation.
In 2017, after Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau apologized in Labrador to residential school survivors, Premier Dwight Ball said Newfoundland and Labrador will apologize too. This week, the Provincial Minister of Indigenous Affairs and Reconciliation said stay tuned.
It's a very active topic on the weekly calls that the Premier and myself have with the Indigenous leaders, and we're actually, I think in the not too distant future, we will be seeing our first apology carried out.
Today, Inuk Leela Evans reacted to that.
I won't accept it. I will not accept it, and I don't think any of the Indigenous groups can until there's real reconciliation.
Ball said the province's apology would be made in Labrador. Dempster suggested there will be more than one apology, with the first one on the island of Newfoundland. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Wabush residents rallied this weekend trying to pressure the town to reopen the rec center. The town closed the Mike Adams Recreation Complex 3 months ago. Here and Now's Daryl Din has this update.
This group rallied this weekend to pressure Wabush to reopen the rec center. It's been almost 3 months since the Mike Adams Recreation Complex in Wabush closed its doors, and there's no sign of it reopening. A group called Friends of the Mark organized the rally. Gertie Canning is one of the members who believes Wabush can support the rec center on its own.
But I don't know that Wabush really needs another town to help them with this. This rec center has been here since 1963. That's a long time. Wabush has seen its ups and downs many times in that over 50 years, and we've never closed the mark. So why now? Why now is my question.
Swimmers in Labrador West are now having to drive to Fermont, Quebec to practice. That's the closest pool in the region. Parents of the swim group spoke about their frustrations.
I encourage, no, I demand, as a resident of this community, that our town councils find an immediate and a long-term solution. Please do not tell me that you need more time. We have been here before. and nothing has changed.
The head of the men's indoor soccer league is disappointed that after COVID, they are fighting to find space.
So over the last 2 years, we had enough struggles with COVID and everything else, and we kind of see the end at the light at the end of the tunnel. And here we are today with no recreation center to play in. It's left us kind of stranded. We can't play in the schools or any other facility, so this is the only facility that we could play in.
Community members were given a chance to speak on why they support the mark.
We also got to think about our seniors. Our seniors go to Aquafit, and 3/4, if not 9/10 of the people there are seniors. This is about the only thing we have to meet together, to exercise, to go for a coffee after. Now we have nothing.
I used to have most of my birthdays here when I was younger, and it was really fun. So I really wish it opens up again so I can have my next birthday here.
Yeah! We want our rec center back, and we need some action.
I get be a superhero.
Just 2 days before the rally, the town of Wabush posted that it would be having a community meeting tentatively around April 25th. What that solution is or what will happen at that meeting is still unknown. Daryl Din, CBC News, Wabush.
Well, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall are coming to Newfoundland and Labrador in May as part of a visit to Canada. The royal tour coincides with the province's come home year, although I think their home's Buckingham Palace. The royals are touring the globe in honor of the Platinum Jubilee. The 3-day visit is intended to celebrate the Queen's 70th year on the throne. Their itinerary hasn't been finalized, but other stops on the Canadian tour include Ottawa and the Northwest Territories.
And the province's come home year celebrations just got a lot louder and a lot faster. And no, not because of the royal visit. NASCAR is coming to Newfoundland and Labrador this summer. A race will be held the last weekend in June. The CBC's Meg Roberts has that story.
NASCAR heard how much fun we are here on this island, and they had to come and check us all out.
Fun, excitement, and economic spin-off is what organizers are promising to come out of Eastbound International Speedway this summer. For the next 3 years, the racetrack in Avondale will be hosting NASCAR's The Pinty Series, which is Canada's largest national motorsports series.
It's going to be 225 laps of the most incredible racing experience for Newfoundland and Labradors, as well as the people that are going to be visiting our province, because I can tell you, we know how to throw a party.
The province has invested $665,000 in the event over the next 3 years. It's hoping the weekend race will attract about 10,000 spectators.
The returns, and more importantly, are about $5.4 million is what we're looking at. And this is launching a new sporting event for people of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's capturing the excitement around NASCAR across the country and indeed and down in south as well. So this is a good day for Newfoundland and Labrador's tourism industry in particular.
18-year-old Sarah Thorne is trying to secure a spot in the race. She started competing when she was just 10 years old, but her history on the track goes back even further.
My mom's water broke out to the dirt track that is now Eastbound International Speedway. So I've been in it since the day I was born. I want to be like an idol, I guess, for little kids. Like I have a little cousin Leah, and I just want to make her proud.
Organizers are planning events the week leading up to the race. They're also coming up with ways to combat the rental car shortage and assembling extra grandstands to accommodate more spectators.
I can tell you, the red carpet's going to be thrown out, and we're going to have the time that everybody's been wishing for.
Meg Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
All right, staying with sports, different type though. Team Gushue won silver in the World Curling Championships last night. The team played in the gold medal game, started off with a 3-0 lead, but Sweden caught up quickly. And then things went off the tracks in the third end when Gushue's first shot took a strange move. This was due to bad ice. Now, that opened the door for Sweden to get ahead. Gushue caught up with a 6-6 score in the ninth end. But Sweden had the hammer in the 10th, picking up 2 points, and Sweden pulled off the victory, winning 8-6.
Well, the setup this week looks like an area of low pressure is going to sit there, and that means some gray skies for a good chunk of the province. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
Well, just before we get to the weather with Ashley, visitors to the St. John's Farmers Market got a chance to learn about Newfoundland and Labrador's wildlife yesterday.
Yes, the expo marking National Wildlife Week gave children the chance to learn about some of the local wildlife in this province. There were games and touch tanks with sea animals. The event also featured wildlife organizations and eco-friendly vendors.
Yeah, National Wildlife Week happens every year around April the 10th, and this year's theme was reconnecting with nature.
The expo is really about bringing together various conservation-minded groups to help celebrate National Wildlife Week and to give the public an opportunity to come out and to see the kinds of conservation work that's being done locally and throughout the province. And certainly after COVID, it also gives us a little bit of an opportunity to reconnect.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Early bird deadline is midnight, Friday, May 6th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
What a day yesterday. It was so nice outside. I was just thinking about it because they had the Wildlife Expo yesterday, and yeah, it was more of a day to be outdoors than indoors, yes.
Yeah, it took a nice long walk. Temperatures were quite mild, held off on the rain for at least most of the afternoon. Different story today, though, unfortunately. We do have some of those cooler temperatures, area of low pressure a little bit further offshore. Let's take a look at what's going on. The warmest temperatures were for the south and west, and this is what we typically see in this sort of pattern. But temperatures hovering around 2 degrees for St. John's today, same thing for St. Anthony, and even up along the coast of Labrador. Those temperatures are hovering around 0, just below for Makkovik this afternoon. Taking a look at what's going on, area of low pressure, like I said, offshore, lots of flurry activity for the Avalon. Same thing for pretty much anywhere along the northeast coast, with some of the clearing skies, at least a little bit of clearing at times for the south and west. But unfortunately, this pattern is going to stick around. In fact, I showed you this graphic last week, and I didn't even really have to make too much of a change for this week, and that's because it's almost exactly the same pattern. We've got that area of low pressure that's going to affect the weather for a good chunk of the week. It's going to move off, and then an area of high pressure will move in as we head through Friday. And then again into the weekend, things will get a little bit more unsettled as an area of low pressure will move back in. So right now, we've got those northerly winds or northwesterly winds. You can see that snow out there. Live look at the Narrows there. But 1 degree in St. John's right now, feeling more like -6. And unfortunately, that is what's going to stick around. Now, we've got lots of snow as well. This is a live look at Gander. Can't see too much because it's covered in snow. About 17 centimeters of snow has already fallen today, and we're looking at another probably 5 centimeters as we head through the night tonight. Temperatures will dip to about 0, just below 0 for a good chunk of the island up across Labrador. Coldest temperatures will be for the west. Lab City will go down to about -11 overnight tonight. And most of the island and Labrador will be unsettled as we head through the night. Also some windy conditions. Left the winds on there for you for the future tracker. There's all that snow I was talking about. It is going to stick around for a good chunk of tonight. By the time we get into the early morning hours, we should start to see that snow taper off. But the gray skies will generally continue, and those winds will stay brisk. They'll be northwesterlies, about 80, 90, even 100 kilometers per hour in some of those exposed areas through the night, and then even through to tomorrow. So winds right across the board will be gusting between 50 and 70 kilometers per hour. The unsettled conditions will continue, where you're looking at cloudy skies, as well as some flurries and maybe even some showers in the mix as well. And that's because some of the temperatures will bump up a bit as we head through the day. Best weather, best chance of seeing that sunshine again for the west and south coast. Winds for you will be about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, and we'll see some snow move in for Lab West as we head into the evening hours and at least the first half of Wednesday. So when we're talking about that snowfall amount, like I said, about 5 centimeters. Closer to that, it'll be fairly wet, like you've been seeing most of the afternoon today. For that area, Gander, Bonavista North is generally where that accumulation should occur. Otherwise, you're just looking at a trace to a couple of centimeters possible, and it will be very wet if it does fall for the Avalon. Temperatures tomorrow aren't going to move too much from what we're seeing today. Again, those northwesterly winds between 40 to 70 kilometers per hour. tomorrow, we're looking at about 3 to 5 degrees, much warmer with that sunshine at least. For Marystown, feeling more like 6 degrees. You're going to see a similar forecast pretty much all along the south coast. Grand Falls, Windsor, you're looking at about 5 degrees tomorrow. You may see a few peaks of sun in the mix, but also unsettled through the day. So either some showers or flurries. The further west and south you go, the better the weather. Between 3 to 5 degrees through the day. The winds, though, are still going to be out of the northwest between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. So it will feel a bit colder than that. And then snow will be the story, mixed with some showers at times. For St. Anthony, Lansley, you may see a few peaks of sun in the mix, but overall it will be an unsettled day. And then we're going to see that snow move in for Lab City again, about 1 degree through the afternoon, and then above 0 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay at about 4 with that light snow continuing. Now, like I said, this is going to continue, but temperatures are going to ramp up, or warm up, as I should say, as we get towards the weekend. I'll get into those details when I come back.
Well, we're very fortunate in the recent budget to see a significant increase in our office to match the change in our act. So our budget actually increased by about 95%.
95%, a bigger budget for the Auditor General to investigate government spending, and she is starting with Memorial University. The government has asked the Auditor General to examine Memorial University's finances. And the last time an Auditor General put MUN under the microscope was 8 years ago. Terry Padden was the AG then. So let's find out about Denise Hanrahan's task. She is the province's Auditor General now, and she joins us from her office in St. John. So Ms. Hanrahan, it's often said that Memorial University is like a city within a city. Where do you start to examine MUN's financial situation to determine if taxpayers are getting the best value for their money?
So you are correct. It is a really large institution, and we want to be sure that we focus on areas that are auditable and are reasonable to give a report in a reasonable amount of time. We have the advantage of that report, as you mentioned, in 2014, and we certainly will look at that. And our office will certainly look at similar audits that have done in universities across the country and use that to inform us. Of course, we'll generate some information on the lines of business at Memorial and look at some of the risk areas and then start picking topics. Okay. As you know, the new legislation does give us access to Memorial more so than before. And I suspect this will be one of many audits over my tenure where we'll be looking at programming at the university. So
are there any particular marching orders that the government gave you as you approached this audit?
It was very general. It simply said operations and spending. And government certainly has been respectful of my office independence, and so our need to be able to define what our scope is going to be. But we need to do a bit of work. Normally it takes us several months to do an audit plan to figure out what criteria we want to look at. We certainly work with the university as we define out that scope. And then it usually takes us a year or more to do the audit work and conclude and submit the report.
Any idea, Ms. Hanrahan, where the activities and decision-making of the President's office, Vian Timmins, where is that going to fit into this audit? Any sense?
So, you know, the decision-making from a President's office could go to many areas, I guess, but it would be all part of, I guess, if you're looking at decision-making in a university, of course, we will look at their legislation and then what authority is delegated from there. And to be honest, we haven't defined it down that far yet to know exactly where that would fit. But, you know, that could be operational spending or administration. It could be adherence to government direction or something like that. I mean, really, I think we'd need to get into it a bit more for me to help with that.
And how do you go about identifying those priorities when you make the audit plans? You know, am I going to examine the med school, the library system, the way travel and overtime are approved, the reasonableness of severance packages? There's just so much to consider. Like, how do you decide?
I'm very conscious of not having an audit where I go away and do my work and you don't hear from me for years. So we want to be sure that we're picking topics and that I can go back and do more. It's not like I'm only going to get one shot at this. So we'll develop up several different types of topics we could look at, and then we'll just pick and choose what the first ones are. I think that's a fairest way of putting it. You know, in that audit in 2014, which very specifically looked at, you know, operations, they looked at compensation, it looked at travel, those types of things. So depending on how much work those types of areas are, we could look at those. Obviously, infrastructure with such a large university and some of the issues they've encountered there certainly would be a very valid topic. And like at the end of the day, you know, our audits really are trying to tackle their effectiveness, or what are they getting the expected results we want. So that would involve faculties and how they're utilizing provincial funding. There's the efficiency, and then there's the economy of that.
A lot of professors, a lot of faculty and students are to talk about the fact that some of the buildings are in really rough shape. I'm assuming capital expenditures might be at the top of a priority list of some kind?
Capital expenditures certainly would be a large one for this university, particularly with some of the issues that have gone on to deferred maintenance. There's been a lot of federal funding that have gone into projects when you look at the cost shares and those types of things. Obviously, there's linkages then as part of that public infrastructure. So certainly those would be good areas for us.
Do you have the resources? Does your department have the resources to actually handle this? Or might you have to go to the government and say, you know what, we need a bit more here?
So we're very fortunate in the recent budget to see a significant increase in our office to match the change in our act. So our budget actually increased by about 95%. And so once the budget is passed, that funding will allow me to staff up and to facilitate covering all aspects of my new act, from doing the financial statement audits of entities to doing what we're calling notionally chase the money to Memorial.
Denise Hanrahan, obviously there'll be a lot of public interest in this audit as it unfolds over the next year or however long you need. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, as we reported earlier in the show, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall will visit Canada next month. And according to Clarence House, Charles and Camilla will be kicking off their trip right here in Newfoundland and Labrador. The CBC's Ellen Morrow has the details from London.
The tour is part of the broader celebrations marking the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. Clarence House says the couple is looking forward to their visit, and we've had reaction from Ottawa today as well. In a statement, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau writing, during their visit, they will have the wonderful opportunity of seeing firsthand the diversity and kindness of Canadians and the beauty of our abundant natural landscape that make us proud to call our country home. We've also heard from Governor General Mary Simon, who released a statement saying, this visit is a chance for us to showcase the evolution of our country, our diverse and inclusive society, as well as the resilience of our Indigenous communities. This is a tour to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, but royal tours are also used as a way of trying to gin up good feelings and support toward the royal family. But it doesn't always work out that way. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, William and Kate, recently toured the Caribbean, where there are efforts underway in several of the countries they visited to remove the Queen as head of state over Britain's brutal colonial legacy. That visit was seen as an attempt at a charm offensive, but parts of the tour were criticized as tone-deaf, and there were some protests. Clarence House will be expecting and hoping that Charles and Camilla's tour of Canada next month will go much smoother. This will be Prince Charles' 19th trip to the country. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, London.
Taylor Reed, the 17-year-old who will surprise you. She's the girl they call Junior, her father's daughter. Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
Well, Anthony, it's been a big year for Team Gushue between the Worlds last week, the Brier, and before that the Olympics, a bronze in Beijing, and as we reported earlier, a silver yesterday at the Worlds.
Yeah, the team also, as you know, is about to change because Brett Gallant is leaving.
Oh, yes, the team is about to change as Brett Gallant leaves and Gushue looks to replace him. CBC Sports reporter Devin Haru, many of you are familiar with him, has covered a lot of curling over the last few years, and Devin has been along for much of Team Gushue's ride. Have a look.
In the sometimes forgotten faraway province of Newfoundland and Labrador, you'll find a hearty bunch of people, a love of community, and a love of curling. You'll also find Brad Gushue. For nearly 3 decades, the St. John skip has been carrying the weight of the rock on his shoulders, the burden for being great. In those early days, Gushue had to first learn how to lose before he could win.
No, it comes up short.
And when he did, alongside his longtime friend on and off the ice, Mark Nichols, the province celebrated. A national junior title first, and then a world championship. Of course, there was a parade downtown St. John's when they returned home. The love affair only deepened in 2006. Baby-faced and just 25 years old, Gushue led Canada to its first men's Olympic curling gold. Those games shut down the province, and Newfoundland and Labradorians lived and died on every shot. Schools closed, work stopped. Gushue, Nichols, Russ Howard, and Jamie Korab rolled on. And when they won, the province celebrated in the most epic ways. A hero's welcome at the airport.
To see this many people here at 1:30 at night, it's pretty remarkable.
The fandom had reached a fever pitch, and it seemed winning would come easy for Gushue in the years that followed. That never happened. For years, Gushue tried to find the right lineup, looking to rekindle that Olympic magic. Nichols left, the team changed, and the losses kept mounting. Close, but never enough. That all changed in 2014 when Gushue, Nichols, Brett Gallant, and Jeff Walker joined forces. For a couple of years, they were right there making it to the playoffs at the Brier, until they finally broke through in the most fitting of places, that faraway place, home. A first Brier title win for Gushue in St. John's. And did they ever party again? I'll never forget that magical week in March 2017, when the locals wondered if this would be it for their team. And when it happened, the joy, the tears, the relief, and boy, did they party. With that first title out of the way, winning seemingly came easy after that. 4 Brier titles in 6 years, this latest with just 3 players with Nichols out with COVID, the stuff of legends. Gallant is leaving the team at the end of this season, ending a remarkable chapter in one of the greatest curling teams ever to play the game. 4 Brier titles, a world championship, as well as 2 second-place finishes and an Olympic bronze over the last 7 years. This World Championship silver in Vegas, their last dance together, wearing the maple leaf. Returning home from one last international competition to that faraway place. Put on the map time and time again by Gushue and the boys.
To Eastern Europe now. The mayor of Mariupol says more than 10,000 civilians have died in that Ukrainian city during the Russian siege. He also accuses Russian troops of using mobile cremation equipment to dispose of the bodies strewn across that city. Meanwhile, Russia's war on Ukraine, now more than 6 weeks long, appears to be entering a critical phase. Moscow claims its forces have destroyed several Ukrainian air defense systems. Russia has been trying to take control of Ukrainian airspace as its forces have made limited gains since the invasion started. The Pentagon says Russian forces are gearing up to renew their offensive in the eastern region, and the humanitarian crisis triggered by the war, it is also getting much worse. A UN agency estimates that 2/3 of all of the children in Ukraine have fled their homes. And the World Bank says Ukraine's economy is expected to shrink by more than 45% this year because of the war.
Well, Pakistan's parliament has elected a new prime minister after a political crisis led to Imran Khan being ousted on the weekend. Shehbaz Sharif, an opposition lawmaker until yesterday, narrowly won a majority vote.
कोई और नुस्खा कारगर नहीं साबित हो सकता मासवाए इत्तेहाद 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 मेहनत मेहनत और मेहनत के
Sharif said that only unity and hard work can save the nation from sinking like a boat. The new leader will have to deal with high inflation and an energy crisis that hobbled the previous government. Yesterday, Khan lost a non-confidence vote after being deserted by his party allies. Supporters of the former cricket player have vowed to return him to power. During the pandemic, Khan earned international praise for steering his country through COVID-19 outbreaks, but he's had a strained relationship with Pakistan's army, which has ruled the country for more than half of its 75-year history.
The first round of voting in France's presidential election is over. Incumbent Emmanuel Macron and his far-right rival Marine Le Pen are heading to a second-round runoff now. Macron won nearly 28% of the vote in the first round, while Le Pen won 23%. But polls suggest the runoff could be much tighter this time. Macron, a centrist, intends to increase the retirement age, and that plan has cost him some voter support, as has steep inflation. Le Pen, an anti-immigration nationalist, has won support by focusing on issues related to the cost of living. Anti-fascist activists took to the streets of Rennes overnight to denounce the election results. They destroyed street furniture and smashed windows before lighting a fire in the city's central square, as you see there. Now, the runoff vote, that is scheduled for April 24th.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna go see some wildlife. We might see the muskrat. This is really nice muskrat habitat.
It's very deeply ingrained to be afraid of bats. They're really important.
The first bird to be threatened, really, would be the game with global warming.
It's only found in this little tiny strip. It's part of Newfoundland, right?
Canadian scientists are back at sea this spring, monitoring ocean climate conditions from the Gulf of Maine to the Labrador Sea. It's their first spring survey in 3 years, and right now they're docked in St. John's Harbour. The CBC's Paul Withers has more about the work those scientists are doing.
Fisheries and ocean scientists off Nova Scotia late last month, measuring biological, chemical, and physical conditions on the east coast. Information that tracks climate change in the ocean and helps manage fish stocks worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And doing it on board this, the American research vessel Atlantis, operated by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Massachusetts.
It is designed for our missions, really. So we were really fortunate to be able to sail on it.
Lindsay Baisley just completed the first leg of the Atlantic Zone monitoring program off the Scotian shelf. Atlantis has all the bells and whistles, including an imaging flow cytobot, a system that continuously and automatically helps identify tiny phytoplankton, the basis of the ocean food chain.
That is what I'm most excited about, is that this collaboration has brought forward a means that we could potentially use to monitor phytoplankton communities in the future in our region.
Atlantis arrived in Newfoundland late last week for the next mission. Under a collaboration agreement, Woods Hole is supplying the ship, crew time and instruments valued at $1.5 million for survey work off Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador. Canada gets Atlantis until the end of May and will pay Woods Hole $5.1 million. DFO will collect and share data with American researchers.
This collaboration builds on decades of collaboration between U.S. and Canadian scientists trying to understand the dramatic fluctuations that we're seeing in the ocean environment off of our shores.
The arrangement solved an immediate problem caused by the abrupt, if unsurprising, retirement of Canada's aging oceanographic research ship Hudson in January. Mechanical problems have lately kept it out of service. That and COVID have derailed recent missions.
We have gaps in our time series, and it's really important that we're able to maintain our ability to go to sea and collect these data in order to inform on climate variability.
DFO is still working to secure vessels for East Coast research missions later in the year. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
The Voice of Hockey Night in Canada has received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Canadian Academy. Bob Cole from this province had been calling hockey games for CBC since 1969, and you may recall that he retired just a couple of years ago in 2019, and he received the award in a ceremony this weekend. Have a look.
This is Bob Cole in the broadcast booth.
You always knew it was a big game when Bob Cole was calling your game.
Oh my goodness!
He's the Sinatra of broadcasting.
His cadence has that rhythm of music, and his breathing is something that's very important to him.
I don't know that there will ever be anybody else that sounds like him because he's from a different era.
The recipient grew up just a few blocks from where Marconi received the first transatlantic radio waves. The young boy could walk to the very spot, and it fired his imagination. He would go back home, put on his radio, and he'd hear Foster Hewitt exclaim, "Hello, Canada and hockey fans in the United States and Newfoundland." Newfoundland? Me? That shaped him, and he understood how to transport a feeling so that when the time came, he could take a person far, far away and situate them right at center ice for the big game.
Every game he made exciting. That's what makes him such a tremendous broadcaster.
Thank you for the incredible years on the helm of Hockey Night in Canada. It is a privilege to present the 2022 Lifetime Achievement Award to the constant, our captain, Bob Cole.
Thank you, Ron, for those kind words. This is a very humbling experience for me. I have to thank the members of the Academy for nominating me for this award. I have been very fortunate over the years to work with so many great professionals, owners, general managers, coaches, the players in the National Hockey League, all of whom I have great respect. We've traveled together, talked together, done a lot of games all over the world, and I realize I'm a very lucky guy to have a job that I love so much. I have to thank my family for being so supportive. They have been. They travel with me sometimes. We've had some great fun. And again, thanks to the Academy for this award.
One of the greats for sure. What a career. Congratulations, Mr. Cole. Well, let's have a look at the long-range forecast. What's in store for us the rest of this week?
Well, unfortunately, that area of low pressure that I talked about earlier is going to stick with us through at least Wednesday, maybe even into Thursday as well. So, you know, those skies are going to stay gray for the most part. Let's take a look at what's going on as far as the future tracker goes. There it is. It is going to pull out further east, which is good news, but it is going to stay unsettled as we head through Wednesday morning. The potential for flurries and or showers will stick around for the most part, particularly through central areas. And as we get into the afternoon on Wednesday, we should start to see some of that precipitation ease up. Now, temperatures are going to stay pretty similar to what we're seeing, so anywhere from about 2 to 4 degrees across the board. Things will start to get a bit more unsettled across southern areas of the island, and then Labrador will stay above 0, it looks like. Lab City around 3 degrees rather, and 0 for Nain. That's where the next potential for flurries will be for you through the afternoon. You'll see a few peaks of sun in the mix as well. Now, as we head into Thursday, temperatures are going to start to warm back up again, a little bit less unsettled. 2 to 5 to even 7 degrees for areas along the south. Again, that onshore activity will continue for the northwest and or northeast coast rather, and that means the flurries will continue. So Gander hovering around the 0 degree mark, same thing for St. John's, and then pretty much all along coastal areas of Labrador as well. Cartwright, your temperature will hover around -2 on Thursday with generally cloudy skies for the remainder of the Big Land. Now, as we head through the rest of the long-range forecast, we are looking at those temperatures hovering just above 0 as we get into Friday. Then into Saturday, it looks like we're going to see a bit of a warm-up, and that means that the precipitation will change to flurries, from flurries to showers through the day on Saturday. Even bigger warm-up, it looks like, as we head into Sunday. So again, pretty much a carbon copy forecast from last week. Now, for central Newfoundland, you're looking at your temperature hovering around the 8 degree mark for Friday. Into Saturday, similar temperatures, but again, unsettled. Overnight lows are going to dip, so we may actually see some of this transition through to flurries as we get into the overnight. And then for western Newfoundland, you're looking at some sunshine both Thursday and Friday. Temperatures pretty nice, more spring-like, between 5 to 7 degrees. And then as we get into Saturday, that's when the unsettled weather will move in and temperature will hover around 9 degrees. Overnight lows don't look like they're going to dip too much. They should hover around 1 degree. Now for Labrador, temperatures are also going to warm up for you as you get into Friday and Saturday. Showers, it looks like, for eastern Labrador, and then changing over back to the potential for some flurries on Saturday. And again, that's because your overnight lows are going to dip. And then for western Labrador, unfortunately, it's going to stay unsettled. Thursday looks nice at this point. Few sunny periods, but overall unsettled as we get into the weekend. Temperature around 4 or 5 degrees with either showers or flurries through the day. Now take a look at this shot. This is after all of the rain on Saturday night, which there was quite a bit of it. This is Chute Brook near, I think it was Port Blandford is what John said.
Okay.
So there you go. Nice shot there. Thank you so much for that. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Good bit of water there.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Another great pick. Thank you so much. Well, this Monday today, not the greatest day out there today. I really did enjoy yesterday, though. Did you guys get out at all?
I did.
Yes, actually, did a little hiking.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
It was a nice day.
I'm so excited we have royalty coming to the province. I
Yes.
can't think of the weather.
Yeah, that's going to be fun for
Fair enough.
sure.
Yeah.
The Royals and NASCAR, two interesting bits of information today. Well, that's it for us. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Can't wait for the screech in. See you tomorrow.
Good night.